And we had Ripple pump and dump off the deepfake. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to cause liquidation. But let's get into the video.
Uber, Bitcoin, self-driving cars. Combine those three together and you have the self-owning taxi. A car that is a corporation that owns itself, pays for the car lease, the car insurance, and the gasoline from the revenues it makes, giving passengers a ride, and there's not a single human involved in that matter.
So first, the surge in the Bitcoin prices. Keep in mind, I'm an operator, but I used to be a fund manager, so I keep a lot of perspectives in mind. It was really two things. Recently, you've had the call it uninverting of the yield curve from a macro perspective. You had also announced that there would be less supply in treasury auction sales. So that created a backdrop from a macro perspective that was very positive for risk assets, and crypto included in that. But on a micro perspective, you had I think you called it on your own show, exuberance for these ETF potentials. I think we're getting closer to the reality of one of those. And reality is, I think a lot of these institutional managers are trying to get ahead in anticipation of that.
Many people on social media come across a lot of news articles, and sometimes it's hard to determine whether they're trustworthy and accurate. But you created an app which aims to solve that problem. It's fittingly called Trust App, and it uses AI and blockchain technology
Correct.
to monitor feeds. And I understand then a green or red check mark is embedded to notify users whether that news article is in fact accurate and trustworthy.
Absolutely.
So how does AI and blockchain technology work exactly to be able to monitor these feeds?
Absolutely. So before we talk about Trust App itself, let's just take a step back and talk about the problem, which is, like you pointed out, misinformation and fake news, right? All of us are just barraged by information from in our social media feeds and everywhere that we look, and it's coming from all different sources, and you never know what to believe or what not to believe. And we sort of looked at this and said, oh, can we use the best of what is out there from a technology perspective, and can we solve the problem? And specifically, we wanted to break the problem into bite-sized chunks and solve it one piece at a time. Right? So the piece that you described is how we're starting out, which is just say taking one thing. Can we actually prove or indicate information provenance, right? Which is this person is saying something. Well, is it actually true or not? How likely is it that they're misrepresenting their source? How likely is it that what they're saying is accurate? Can we just put a little mark there, right there in your feed, so that you can just get a quick feel? And if you hover over our check mark, that'll open up a little window where you can actually see our analysis.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Support this great content by hitting the Cash App and by joining the Patreon.
And we have John Woo from Ava Labs. Talks about the yield curve, which surprised me. And guys, we know it's all about manipulation. And he does too. The manipulation of yields allows stocks and cryptos, especially the top ones, to keep moving up. And he talks about the excitement for the spot Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. And we know they like to price it in before the announcement. Don't forget, guys, we already have spot Bitcoin ETFs globally. And then we have the Trust App, AI and blockchain verifying whether the article is true or false. Remember, guys, they don't want critical thinkers. Remember what Brzezinski stated. We'll have a nation of people that cannot think on their own. And that's what we have right now. But don't forget, guys, you already have algorithms writing articles. So they're definitely going to verify themselves. Remember, in the fourth industrial revolution is man versus machine. And we have Xi coming to Cali. Now, the takeaway from this video is that the CEOs get to meet Xi $2,000 dinner. And that reminds us when Japan came to California to plan out the fourth industrial revolution. So guys, really, Xi is here to make business deals. We know China is about to rise in its fourth industrial revolution, and America is about to fall, along with the United States world reserve currency. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Now we have Australian ports get hit with a cyber attack, and I went over this last night. But guys, don't forget, this is infrastructure. Mess up the whole supply chain. And we're getting hack after hack after hack. So guys, we know this is a build-up to something big. And we have the Fed rates higher for longer. And we know with all these geopolitical events going on, they're going to have every excuse to cut. We have UBS says they're going to cut 275 basis points starting in March. I definitely think they're going to start cutting during the summer. But guys, we see the holes in the economy. We see the holes in the consumer. But we know income taxes will hold them up for the next 4 to 6 months, starting in 2024. After that, we know the consumer is going to be broke. Plus, in 2024, we know the layoffs are going to start picking up. Now, we have Speaker Mike Johnson puts out a proposal to stop the shutdown. And guys, we know this is nothing but a movie. But the key point is they're not spending like they normally do at the end of the year. We know they have to start cutting back because we know these countries are getting off the dollar. And that's the reason why we're hearing the drums are beat. If you're old like me, we've seen this movie tons of times before. We know when America is broke, the drums get to beating, but we know the banks are funding both sides. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Especially when it comes to military exchanges. The other big issue, of course, is going to be help with Russia as well as Iran in the conflicts in Ukraine as well as the Mideast. That was also articulated by the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who had met with one of her Chinese counterparts, talking about how she had hoped that Chinese companies would not be assisting Russia in its efforts in Ukraine. Another big point that the Biden administration is expected to bring up is the enforcement by the Chinese on exports of fentanyl ingredients to the United States. Now, for the Chinese, a lot of it is with the backdrop of a slowing economy, that President Xi would be walking into the room after his vice premier had already expressed to Janet Yellen the desire by the Chinese for an easing on export controls, sanctions, as well as tariffs. There is an expectation that there could be a push by the Chinese for an expanded dialogue on AI, though skeptics here have said that this also might be a way for the Chinese to delay U.S. restrictions. And then finally, the Chinese have been expressing that they want some reassurances on Taiwan. Now, one other point that's interesting from the Chinese is that President Xi is going to be headlining a dinner in the San Francisco area with U.S. CEOs. It's $2,000 a head, but if you pay that, then you'll be able to see President Xi in person. And one of the messages that this sends, guys, is that President Xi really wants to drum up confidence among foreign investors in China. Big question, though, as to whether or not he'd be able to do that without any meaningful change in policy here.
Ports are getting back to business after a cyber attack crippled one of the country's largest port operators. Our Lorianne LaRocco joins us now with more. This is global reverberations.
It most definitely is, Kelly. DP World Australia, which manages 40% of the country's container trade, was the target of this cyber attack, and it's the company that's part of DP World, which is based in Dubai. The attack was discovered Friday evening in the company's IT system, and the system was shut down for 2 days. This created a backlog of 30,000 containers, which they're beginning to work through today. But DP World Australia says while the operations have resumed, this does not mean that the incident has concluded. According to Marine Traffic, there are currently 6 container vessels in the port of Melbourne, which is the country's largest port. 20 more are expected by the end of the month, and authorities are still investigating on who is responsible for the attack.
Okay, if they're investigating who's responsible, should we conclude that this is probably a ransomware attack or no?
They have had ransom attack in the past, other ports, even this year. DP World is enormous, and they actually have a tremendous amount of port connectivity around the world. And when you look at that, a lot of logistics managers are concerned as to, are they going to be able to infiltrate the other ports that they manage around the world?
Wow. So there should be some concern then that the companies operating in other places could be compromised as well.
Most definitely. You're only as good as your next firewall, as you know, John. And, they've got about 60 ports around the world. And so that really is a tremendous footprint, if you will. So no one knows if it's a localized attack or if it's something far-reaching.
Literally a lot at stake.
Strategists over at UBS are now saying that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates by 275 basis points, nearly 4 times what the markets are pricing in. Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle is here with the details. Abby?
Yeah, Matt, this is a pretty dramatic call. I mean, if you think about it, that's almost saying that rates will be 3% lower around this time next year than they are now. Now, the justification that UBS is using is they're saying that they see this as a normal rate-cutting cycle ahead. So again, they expect 275 basis points by the end of next year. They think that we could start to see cuts as early as March. And then they're saying that one of the reasons inflation's down, I don't know that this is a justification, but they do see a recession starting by the second quarter of next year. So when I have thought about why would the Fed potentially cut sooner than the Fed is saying that they might cut if there was a recession around, that could be one reason.
House Speaker Mike Johnson announcing plans for a short-term spending plan ahead of a potential government shutdown on Friday. Friday is the deadline, so Johnson comes out with this 2-step proposal. It would fund part of the government until January 19th and the rest until February 2nd. The proposed continuing resolutions do not include funding for Ukraine or Israel. Johnson said in a statement over the weekend, the bill will stop the absurd holiday season omnibus tradition of massive loaded-up spending bills introduced right before the Christmas recess. There could be a House-wide vote on this short-term spending plan as soon as tomorrow. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says that the airstrikes were in response to at least 48 attacks on U.S. bases in the Middle East since October 17th. He also issued a warning from Seoul this morning, and here it is. Watch this.
These attacks must stop. And if they don't stop, then we won't hesitate to do what's necessary, again, to protect our troops.
Well, he keeps warning about protecting the troops, Congressman, and we keep getting attacked.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leverage to technology, and I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust. And we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look, we have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Team save New York. COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Team goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.